Hello and welcome. It's the crypto day morning. Today's date, it's in that of Friday, first day of February 2019. All bets, trades of the like within each his own risk and their own reward, but there's not much to go over in today's video. Continuation of low volatility movements within Bitcoin, noticeably above this low, noticeably below this high. And then long-term time frame, exactly the same thing, noticeably below this high, noticeably above this low. And in this case, it could go down a bit more and still be noticeably above this low here at about $1.50. And when I say $1.50, I mean 150. And then it can go up decently and go up to like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 and still be noticeably below the previous high. At some point, this sideways move has got to come to an end, and as we can see, resistance around 41 and then the lower end of 31, it's in the middle of that range. So therefore, any decent sized move that comes into play, well, here it would be a test of previous support and a test of resistance on the way up. And of course, all that empty space breaking either way before we put the lines on the screen and adjust this back to the weekly chart. A decent leg lower from here. Small one like normal would be 24, and a decent one could be about 18. In this case, it went from a break of support of around 6,000 to north of 3,000, losing almost half of its value. Losing almost half its value in here would be about 1,800 from the break of support. And then up here, it's just large size gains to fill within this empty space. But it really becomes simple. If this is going to be it for cryptocurrencies, everything's falling, it's obviously not only going to break down below this support level here, but it would ultimately break below 1,000, and then you'd have its end days somewhere there after that. And if not, it's just, unless it's a bull market heading for another decent leg higher, then the question is when will the bottom come in? Where will it come in? How large of intense moves, meaning how long will it take to have the big gains to previous high, double previous high, all those kinds of differentials? And for those answers, I don't really care too much. But I do think as we move on, cryptocurrencies will continue to do well, or at least have one major leg higher moving forward. But again, I don't know when these bull markets, higher highs, higher lows are going to occur. If it's going to happen next month, next year, even another couple years or 3 from now. Normally, bear markets, if they're any serious, and Bitcoin isn't anything near normal, you'd be looking at about a good year and a half or 2. A lot of times it can be shorter. Silver, they had a long bear market through the entire 1980s and 1990s. Moving on to Litecoin, it just remains really sideways, just not doing anything really. Support at around 30, 29.90, but we'll say 30. 2 levels or layers of resistance, one up around 33, between in the 33, and then of course this one at around 40. But it's got decent volume today, at least it does on the Bitstamp exchange. As we can see in here that the you just go so I can read the volume pretty good on the upper left. The volume is 89,000 Litecoins being traded, where before we were looking at 1928. Let me just take a look at this on a quick shorter term time frame. We're seeing consistent volume coming in, which started really around, and this is around last night at about 6 p.m. Eastern Time. As every single hour having decent size, meaning the small volatile periods like this one here, still good size in compared to all of these low volume and even high volume moves back in here. And then of course consistently having several of these larger up bars, the price action breaking out well into the high volume session at 3 a.m. and several green candles up, making it to this previous high, and really for that matter closing in on this one here as well. Let's switch the crossing off from this to that of Bitcoin. And on the Poloniex exchange, we can see a little bit of the big volume in here. But I'm just going to use this, thus being the exchange, for the long-term look. We'll go back to the short-term thereafter. And it's been choppy up and down, which as far as buy low, sell high strategy, that's the things I look for. But big moves up, big moves down. And it's been stable for the last several months. We finished off the month of January up 13% after just a couple sideways months before that. On the weekly chart, it has done something very interesting. Now, every time before within the 18, it would just shoot higher like this, making it very difficult in trying to determine reversal of trends, unless of course you already own it, then it's always nice. But in this case, it's doing things basically near the book kind of deal. We can see in here that this level of resistance, roughly around the even 0.01 mark, or 1% of the Bitcoin price, has been the established resistance. I like how for the last 3 weeks it has managed to consolidate amongst such, of course, looking to break out further now. Let's take a look at this on the daily time frame, but I also want to take a look at this on a different exchange, because the volume in here isn't anything out of the ordinary. In fact, it's still lower from this highs volume. And I also want to take a look at Coinbase's volume as well. I haven't seen that as I'm recording this. It's currently 9:43 a.m. Eastern time now. And its volume is standard everyday as you go volume. I got these lines that I drew in from before, but when we take a look at this on a shorter term time frame, 4 hour, and then again the single hour, we can just see how it's had a nice little break. It's got to come back. Yes, it's got to come back to where, at some place where it came from, or some key spot at some point. Whether it tops here, which it did, or as it could be doing at the 943 handle, it could be 100, it could be 120, or 0.012. It could be 2 times, 5 times, 1,000 times higher than that. The whole point of me saying it that way is that these markets can go up big, and they're always going to retrace when they run out of steam. You can't throw the ball up in the air without it coming down with the laws of gravity. Not saying that the laws are placed in here, but they kind of almost are, meaning if it's going to go way up, there's going to be a down correction of within its volatility pretty much every single time. And on the 15-minute time frame in here, we can see it breaking out of this key resistance roughly around 3 a.m. again. Continuous move up until about 7:30 a.m. and now it's having some of its correctionary move, yada yada yada. That's all normal. Let's take a look at this against Coinbase just to see if I can get anything on the volume there. And here we have it, and this is the 15-minute time frame. So we're not having the same kind of volume that is going on Bitstamp. We're looking here at, for a size of trades in this one, because Coinbase is probably bigger than it. Right now we're getting like, well, the average is 130. That's the second number, 136. It's declining. It was at around 200. So the average was 200, now down to like in the well into the 100s. And in here 90. So it's a much smaller, I mean 17 was a trader. This is just a much smaller exchange on where it's going. But for the single hour, I guess this is the time frame I was most focused on. And we can see in here that the average has been like 4 after it used to be like 1 and change. And amongst this one here, the average is 4, but has always been that or higher. So the smaller exchange is having big buys for whatever reason. It seems as if this Litecoin move might be because of the Bitstamp price increase. Let me just see if I can get anything maybe on the Tether now that I'm thinking of that as well. And there's a slight increase amongst such in here. We can see 3 o'clock was the time that Bitstamp had. On here, 3 o'clock, I got going, but it really never got going until about 5 to 8 o'clock amongst it in here. But that will be it for today's video. I'd like to thank you for tuning in and have yourself a great weekend. And I'll be back later today, but if not, tomorrow morning.